This is the Environmental Protection Commission regular meeting, Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. First piece of new business is EPC 23-2025, PL 25-152, 10 Holly Lane, K. Rosenberry and S. Rosenberry to construct an in-ground pool, spa, patio, drainage, and other related features in a special flood hazard area proximate to wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the west side of Holly Lane, approximately 700 feet north of Middlesex Road, and is identified as map number 9, lot 150. The zone is R1 and is approximately 1.19 acres.
Chairman, this application has made its way to the agenda this evening to start the statutory time clock, to solicit some initial comments, and from the commission members, and to determine if a public hearing is warranted to assess the impacts of the proposed development. For those that have been on the commission for at least a couple of years, and all of you have, this application under a prior owner was before the commission.
What year was that?
It was at least 2 years ago.
Well, then we all were.
At least 2 years ago.
Okay.
Important impacts assessments pertaining to wetland impacts and flood hazard impacts and drainage and water quality will be coming in, and it's under a new engineer as well. So they are aware of the prior application, and they have read through it thoroughly and know what are going to be questions and concerns by this commission.
Any commission member have questions?
Well, I'm sure you'll probably check into this, but it's only 5 feet from the wetlands is where the pool, so it's very close. And the water table there is very low, and they have an infiltration system that's a little bit different than the Cultex. So I'm wondering how effective that might be in that very high water table. And it could use some more lawn out of play in there, back in that area too. So I mean, this is stuff we talked about last time, 2 years ago. So we're kind of bringing it back up again.
Yeah, very difficult for me to approve something that's that close to the wetland. Okay, particularly if there's any fill involved or anything like that. Lower Holly Lane is extremely sensitive. That's a large watershed from the water that comes down and feeds into Stony Brook. I'm very concerned about that. So the infiltration systems, the Cultex, etc. The increase in impervious area there and how they're going to deal with it is something that is of particular concern. Okay, so I think we're going to need a peer reviewer on this one because of the hydraulics involved, etc. So I'll go best the Bill saying, 5 feet from the wetlands. Geez, I'll be looking at alternatives, and you should ask them for alternatives, because at 5 feet from the wetland, just that mere fact gives me great cause for concern.
Yeah, I agree with that. I typically would not ask for a public hearing in a pool situation, but given the flood zone on one end and the wetlands on the other, and the proximity to the wetlands, I would suggest maybe a public hearing for impact on the environment, significant impact on the environment.
I agree. I have Mike echo your concerns as well. It is really close to the wetlands. I also was wondering, if it looks like the pool is sort of at grade, but I was wondering if there would be any fill. And also, will they need to dewater the excavation to build the pool? I agree. I think for the environmental impact, I would be in favor of a public hearing.
Well, I think we're going to need some really sharp analysis on infiltration, Cultex, etc. Because I don't know what obviously they're going to have to find out what the water table is to be able to work. And so And for them to put things in cultexes and stuff like this, just not, the cultex is going to fill up with groundwater before it takes groundwater. Anyway, so I'm very skeptical. I'll support the public hearing thing too. So, okay, can you make a motion to have a public hearing?
Make a motion to hold a public hearing for 10 Holly Lane for the construction of a pool, spa, patio, barbecue, fencing and related features because of the environmental impact.
I'll second that motion on PC 23-2025.
All in favor? Done. Okay. Old business. EPC 12-2025, PL 25-72, 49 Salisbury, Glowcon Studios LLC to replace a septic tank, install air handlers, renovate lawn areas, remove vegetation, and conduct other related activities in and proximate to wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the north side of Salisbury Road, approximately 740 feet west of Brookside Road, and is identified as map number 1, lot number 105. The zone is R2, and it is approximately 1.001 acres.
Mr. Chairman, at last month's meeting, a significant amount of testimony was presented concerning this proposal having to do with replacement of a septic tank, the functionality of the existing septic systems, the grading of the property, the impact of existing and newly modified drainage structures on wetlands and water courses, and their impacts on sewage disposal. The commission determined, after, again, considerable testimony at the September meeting, to request additional information and clarifications, and those items were outlined in our correspondence of September 8th, 2025. It included a positive endorsement of drainage and water quality matters from the town's engineering consultant, look into the health department for guidance on the septic systems and the functionality systems, and the proposal's impact on the sewage disposal, reconfirmation of performance of existing drainage and subsurface drainage structures, a uniform depiction of regulated activities on all plans, clear reporting of the ownership names, but most importantly, a discussion of the alternative design features to minimize impacts on regulated areas and or enhance the performance of existing drainage, the modified drainage, subsurface sewage disposal systems. And the commission also outlined some of the things that they were looking for the applicant to address. Possible alternatives may include alternative locations for the subsurface sewage disposal components, details of any watertight subsurface sewage disposal components, identification, modification of existing and proposed features that potentially impact systems or short-circuit the effective treatment of effluent, positive grading to alleviate pockets of standing water, measures to better manage stormwater entering the septic areas from the drive, roadway, and joining spaces, removal or truncating of non-essential drainage discharge to the watercourse, measures to alleviate erosion, potential scour of the watercourses. In response, the applicant made significant changes to the plans, and the applicant is here to describe those changes. But essentially, a substantial number of all but one of the drainage structures that crisscross the property through the wetlands and through the septic systems will be removed. They'll be looking to do drop gutter outfall on the rear of the property onto splash pads, and with in combination with the positive drainage and grading that's going to occur, that they'll be effectively treated from a drainage and water quality perspective in the rear yards. The catch basins in the driveway will be evaluated and provided with full 2-foot sumps and outlet controls. Again, some number of these direct discharges that actually went across the septic systems and through the wetlands are going to be removed. Others will be tied in the drainage from the roofs will be tied into a system of a level spreader, substantially distant from the edge of watercourse. A sump pump system that had been directly tied to the brook is going to be removed and go to a level spreader or into an infiltration system. And a variety of other things. There's substantial planting mitigations that have been proposed to restore the space or stabilize the soil. But I think most importantly, there's the abandonment of that septic system that was closest to the road, that was a serious concern about functionality, its impact on drainage from the driveways, et cetera. They're now abandoning that idea of replacing the tank to repipe the systems that discharge to it internally in the house and take it to a new enlarged septic tank that will direct it to the existing more functional systems that are on the property. I can report that our engineering consultant has reviewed the plans and has provided positive comments or an endorsement, no further information requested in terms of the drainage impact. And we have made a referral to the health department, and the health department has responded back with a list of information that they will need in advance of a building permit in order to secure a health department permit for the reconstructed property, and it will be essentially a new permit.
So let me understand that for a second. So the health department has basically given, well, it's not permission yet because they're still requesting information. Okay, right? So is that sort of like, well, you're okay so far, but you still have to do, these 5 things before you're allowed to build it?
You get a health department, yes, you still have to make some changes if you're going through.
Well, he'll go through this, because I'm sure
he'll go through it.
I think you're
But there's also some
knee deep in this, right?
waiver requirements from the state of Connecticut in terms of the well and setbacks, et cetera. And there's other de minimis changes that have to be made to the system to accommodate all these new things that they are doing. Just as an aside, the prior proposal for the well had some issues, and they're making the corrections to the well itself too. They're raising it above grade. There's certain decontamination elements that would be associated with it. So I'll let the applicant go into greater detail. The point being is that in response to the commission, substantial changes have been made to the plan to address that, and I'll let the applicant delve into that further.
Good evening. Brian Muller with Muller Engineering. Rick Talamelli always does such a great job summarizing, so I'll try to make mine as well thought out. To elaborate on the health department thing, so originally the health department gave an approval to do this second floor addition with no bedroom increase, and there hasn't been a bedroom increase. They built that, they did their thing. What came about was when they started trenching roof leader pipes that were existing, that were broken and very, very old. So, I mean, they weren't functioning by any means into this brook. And he replaced a bunch of those, and that's when raised the red flag that, oh, we actually have a drainage pipe going underneath the leaching field, right? So that's when Jovan and the health department was kind of like, hey, I want to look at this again. And when they did that, when we decided to eliminate this septic system in the front, which is only tied to one bathroom upstairs with a laundry room, so it was easy to eliminate. This area floods not just from the road, but from the upper watershed as well. So we proposed to basically do a new B100 design, okay? And with that B100 design and all the wetlands out here, we need relief for certain things that are in the health code, like wetland setbacks, where we have our mottling is 17.75 inches below grade, so technically that's non-code compliant. So we show a new reserve area, and some of the health department's comments are, they want more detail, so they want us to design it to see how, if this system fails, when this B100 is potentially going to need to be installed, what's it going to look like? So he just wants additional information. We both agreed that we're going to have the state also review it. I believe the state reviewed it the first time when they went to get a building permit for the second floor, because it is a tricky site with limited setbacks. I mean, just for instance, one of the comments was actually to reduce the size of the new proposed septic tank that I proposed. The minimum size for what we need here was a 1,250 gallon septic tank. I proposed 1,500 just because I'd rather a little bigger tank. One of the comments was, hey, why don't we reduce it so the size of the tank is smaller so that we're outside the well radius of the 75 feet, but that it wouldn't matter. So I'm going to say we're going to keep that size tank because the leaching field that's existing in the rear yard that we're going to maintain is also within 75 feet. So no matter what, we need relief on that. And I know the state will give us, I've had relief given up to about 50 feet from a well that's in the front of the house and the septic's in the back. So I'm fairly confident we'll get that. And as I mentioned to Mr. Telemelli too, in talks during this process, if there's anything more that we have to do site work wise that you're not privy to right now, we're going to come back to EPC for you guys to review it as well. I'm not anticipating that. I'm anticipating us installing a new 1,500 gallon septic tank to replace the old, this is only 750 right now. And then the piping associated with it. And also one of the comments was to do more thorough inspection, which Palladino is going to do, the septic installer, who's been pumping this tank. He's going to do a more thorough inspection and give that inspection report. So that'll give us more light into, you know, the current state of the system, which I'm sure is going to, the inspection report's going to come back fine because the house hasn't had anybody living in it. So, yeah, and then for the only drainage pipe we're going to keep that's directly connected to the brook is going to be the catch basin right here, just uphill of the driveway, which collects a lot of the runoff from the uphill properties. This was an old pipe that the contractor, you know, piecemealed and fixed up. This is the only pipe we're going to keep. At one point I thought about disconnecting this as well, but now that we're going to eliminate this septic system, this is the one pipe that I would like to see kept there. The rest of these, the roof leaders in the front, they're going to go directly to the level spreader so they can sheet flow down and through the wetlands and into the brook. And then the sump pump's going to go to the Coltec system with a junction box that'll then overflow to the level spreader so that we can try to infiltrate that water back in the front yard. There's no basement on this house, it's just a crawl space, so the sump pump is just meant to keep the moisture out. So it's not pumping as much as you would think. It's a very small crawl space. And if there's any questions, we did try to address, and I think we did fairly well. I've been in enough of these hearings that I know how to fix erosion problems with sedges and things like that, but Kate is going to help. That's going to be more dictated on her plans than mine, but I wanted to have a note on there so that so the contractor reads my plans, may not necessarily see the planting plan. If there's any questions.
Yeah, just to confirm.
Yeah.
What Rick said, all the old leader pipes that were falling into the wetlands, etc., I understand they're going to discontinue them, but they're also going to be ripped up.
Yeah.
So no one, because when the next person or the next person after that who owns this house is not going to be tempted to
Yeah, just reconnect, yeah.
just reconnect, and I can't, no.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, no, the pipes will definitely be removed.
Okay.
All these will be taken back to where they need to be. These are all the new pipes here, so everything's gonna be taken out of here and out of here. And this can happen while we do the inspection on the septic system, so it should work out, I think.
Okay. Bill?
Yeah, I just want to make sure on the septic system. So the one to the north, is that the only leaching field, or the one to the east?
So there was these leaching trenches here that were installed in the 1950s.
On this, it says they're going to remain.
Yeah, everything's gonna remain.
I have a problem with that because there's a brook running right through that.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if the brook was there in the 1950s when they installed that.
But they don't mix, right? You can't have septic leaching fields and a brook right on top of each other.
I think the brook's an intermittent water course. I don't know if it flows water 100% of the time. I mean, I've only been there
Doesn't matter.
when it's
It's
raining.
running.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is there still may be infiltration that's happening. And that's also probably why they installed this larger system with galleries in the 1980s. So this system probably wasn't working properly, and they spliced another line off of it from the D-box. So this system is here. Its functionality, I'm not sure. That's what Palladino is going to be
And you
reporting.
have to have that in to go along with the other one, or you don't have enough?
As far as the record goes in the health department, that's what it shows, yeah.
No, I'm talking about capacity. You have to have that.
There
in order-
is enough in this row, but not for MLSS.
What's ML?
MLSS is the calculation you run, which is like a safety factor for the septic systems, right? It deals with the depth of soil restriction, the percolation rate, and then the slope of the earth. And the slope here is slim to none. And the perk rate was 1 in 20, which isn't great. And the depth of soil restriction was about 18 inches, which is the minimum requirement. So we showed a full 100% MLSS reserve area across the back here and across the side here. That works. Now we need relief from the state for its depth, for its setback from this brook. So we proposed a system right here. That's 10 feet off the house. That's the reserve area. These were the test holes were dug. So if the system ever does fail, it's the only really spot to put it.
And where's the reserve, I am still a little confused, where's the reserve area?
The reserve area is right here. This is the site development plan. So
But you're saying actually it's still tied in, so it's not reserve, it's actually tied in, isn't it? The leaching field?
No, this leaching field here that was installed in the 50s is still tied in.
That's
yeah.
tied in.
Yeah, there's a junction box with 2 pipes coming out of it.
Okay, and the reserve is just closer to the house?
Yeah, the reserve is a single trench like this. I think we used green leach here, and it's 10 feet off the edge of this house, straight up and down here. And then there would be a tank here and a pump chamber would need to be installed in order to use the new reserve system that's designed in case this system fails.
And you couldn't make, the northern section, you couldn't make a larger leaching field there to deactivate the eastern side altogether?
No, so off memory here, the MLSS requires 144 linear feet. So I had 72 linear feet here, and I had 72 linear feet here. So I'm not gonna get 140 linear feet. The property's only 188. So it's tricky.
So this is up to the health department and the state health
Yeah.
department to determine, because if we had to make that decision, I wouldn't go with it, put it
No,
over the brook.
I'd agree.
Or keeping it intact with the brook. But, okay.
Peter?
No, I think I'll say what I said last time, which, except Ed, I have a headache, but the homeowner has a bigger headache than I do. But I'm sympathetic in this situation, and if the state and the health department were to approve it, I'm kind of inclined to approve also.
Carol?
So there was a comment that the well is, in terms of setback, is non-conforming and it has to be approved by state and local health officials. Is there an alternate site if they don't approve it?
Yeah, now that we're abandoning this septic system, we could move the well further away, but then we'd also be drilling in the wetland area.
So you would have to come back to us?
We would have to come back, we have to drill a new well, yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah.
I did observe several pipes going into the water course, and if I understand correctly, all but one are being discontinued and actually removed, not just abandoned.
Yes, they'll all be removed, just this one from this catch basin right here going across the front.
And there was scour associated with those pipes that will
With these here.
be remediated. And the one existing pipe that continues to go into the water course, how far back is that from the water course?
I think it's right on the edge of it.
And can it be pulled back?
We can pull that back and put some riprap
Yeah.
and stones in there and stuff, yeah, to stabilize it.
Okay. And let's see. Oh, and again, just to confirm, the new septic, the 1,500 gallon septic tank along the eastern plain, that's replacing a smaller one.
That's, yeah, doubling the size of what's existing, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And it's gonna have a baffle in it too. The old one probably doesn't have a baffle in it.
Okay, and, on the site plan, there is an operation and maintenance plan. I think it just needs to identify the responsible the owner as the responsible party for maintaining the system, and again, that the language should be a little bit stronger. It should say shall instead of should for the frequency of checking it. And that's all I have for now.
think I've had that same comment from you.
Yes,
should have
I
taken-
say it
I should
every
have
time.
taken that note from that plan and put
You
it on
should
this one.
remember, right?
I know,
So,
Change your master so it always reads that.
right,
I
right,
know,
right.
I know.
Yes.
Well, I had John, you met John last month, so
Yep.
I had him do this one, so he's still learning, but it's all right.
All right.
Brian, because of the complexity of this, do you oversee a more intense supervision of the construction and the technicians that are actually performing the job here?
Out of my personality, yes, can't say it's always like that. But yeah, I'm really gonna be interested when Palladino opens up these junction boxes and the edges of the system to see what's going on, because there's also propane tanks located over here too, that are like in the system or like on the edge of the system, so it's,
Yeah, I mean, I'm
I have a
just,
feeling when we dig over there, it's gonna be a lot of sand. I'm sure when they were installed, they probably dug out all the bad wetland soils and replaced it with septic sand, I would assume.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this wouldn't function. You know, I'm assuming this whole area probably was a big wetland. Back in the 50s, they filled in,
I'm sure. Yeah.
so
How close is the propane tank to the wetlands?
it's in it.
How old is the propane tank?
They're in ground?
They're old.
They're
No,
above
they're
ground?
not in ground,
They're above ground? Okay, so they're old. So they're above ground.
That's where I was going, if they were buried.
Yeah, no, they're not buried.
Okay, so never mind.
Yeah, so, yeah.
No further questions.
Yeah, the wetlands are right here, right up against the back of the house. Like I said, I mean, this brook, I don't know if it was there. I mean, there's a pipe all the way back here too that was located by the surveyor that we don't know where.
How big are the propane tanks? Are they 150 gallon bottles?
Are they like big, long tubes? Yeah, they're probably like 250 gallons each.
3 chairs,
The home is heated by propane?
yes.
Rick, if the applicant present, so this has already come before. Oh, no. This house already had a major renovation prior to ever coming before EPC. Is there any reason why the propane tanks wouldn't be relocated per the material amount of construction done on the home to pull them out of the wetland?
They were there, they were existing.
Yeah, but the permit was to do renovation rather than a full scope of rebuilding the property. And if it was such a scope that it is now, why wouldn't the propane tanks be removed from the wetland? I mean, the propane tanks could easily be just attached to the rear of the property. We're not talking about buried 400-gallon tanks. I'd say pick up the 150-gallon bottles or the 200-gallon tank and put it up on the house out of the wetland.
I would have to do more research,
could
but there
you
was
do
a
that?
prior EPC permit on this.
Yeah.
EPC may have permitted the tanks in that location.
Because our inclination would be, hey, applicant comes and says, I want to do work on, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and we'd say, okay, that's fine. What's in the wetland? And, oh, propane tank, okay, can you get it out of the wetland?
Yeah,
It's pretty,
it opens it up so we can have that discussion.
But it was those were existing. You know what it was? I think the EPC granted permit for the generator, which is also in
The well.
the wetland.
we have a famous case with Penny Glassmeyer where she had a generator in the wetland after she had donated her abutting land to the Darien Land Trust, and EPC and zoning told her to remove the generator out of the wetland. Can you look into that? Ask Jeremy and see why this application would be any different than the way that P&Z and EPC voted on that? That sounds contradictory. This application came to the commission after the fact, effectively, right? It's been before the commission prior. But the scope of the work, the reason why this is before us is because the building department wasn't anticipating the
I don't think that's
magnitude of-
true.
No, yeah,
No, I don't
it
think that's
didn't
right.
come, it didn't
The
come
thing that
before you guys
precipitated-
because
the
it was
thing that-
interior renovation.
It was a second story of renovation, with interior renovations. What prompted the coming to the EPC was when, during the construction process, they ran over the tank that was along the road up in the front and broke the top. The health department, as part of their approval, said, can't just replace the top, it's only 750 gallon tank. you gotta replace the whole tank, which was in and proximate to wetlands. Further to that was the regrading that was necessary, and then as the process moved along, then we discovered the things like the drainage pipes and the new sump pump system and all that. But what prompted it, the application itself, was their tank replacement in the front.
Right. I just don't know where we are in the process, but I'm just using the general onus of the commission is when an applicant comes before the board and is completing construction operations on the property, it's generally our purview to get certain things out of the wetlands. I mean, we had an applicant who did improvements to his property, came back before the commission, and he put a fence in the wetland to keep foxes out from potentially eating his small dog, right? We had an applicant come after they were conducting operations on the property, and we made them move mechanicals in a playset out of the wetland. How do we have an applicant now before us talking about repairing their septic, having open approval for septic, and now I completely missed the fact that there's a propane tank in the wetland, and saying, oh, the propane tank in the wetland is okay, and the generator.
Well, I believe the EPC granted a permit for at least the generator, and maybe the generator and the propane tank. However, what have we done through the permit application process here? You're talking about removals. We removed a septic tank from inland wetlands. We removed the functionality of a trench that is in inland wetlands. We repiped the house, removed all the drainage incursions that go directly into the brook itself.
Oh, you've done great things,
So
no
there-
question.
yeah.
We're just kind of we're talking about this is where there's been actual applications where you said, hey, remove the fence from the wetland, remove the propane tank from the wetland, remove the generator from the wetland, remove a fence from the wetland. How is this application different? Did this body allow the generator and the propane tank?
At least a generator, I don't remember.
No, I'm
the
sorry,
full
this
extent.
commission, like this.
This commission,
We did.
yes.
I think he's asking like these 6 people. Or was
No,
it
we
10 years
didn't.
ago?
No.
Oh, this commission?
Yeah,
right.
we.
Yeah, like these people, not
Yeah, I
like,
remember that.
No, I don't remember.
Right.
I mean, this is,
so-
they're probably, it's probably
Why don't you
old.
pull
How
it,
old
take
is that
a-
generator?
After.
That generator's gotta be
tomorrow, something like that,
15 years old, 10 years old
Pull the
probably.
prior approvals just to adjust to review
It just seems completely contrary. We've had conversations about asking people to remove their patio furniture from the wetlands because they have waterways that the hurricane blows furniture into a culvert and it jams up and then like an entire neighborhood floods. I don't know, it just doesn't seem like an apples to apples scenario. And the property's still under construction, there's excavators. I mean, hey, look, maybe the applicant.
Not this property, not really.
Maybe the
We're bringing
applicant
in a
just,
new
maybe the
excavator in.
applicant just wants to raise their hand now and say, sure, we'll move the tanks, that's not a problem. You've got equipment on, pick it up and move it.
We
It's
don't have construction in the site.
You're gonna speak, can you just go?
Yeah, if you're gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just state your name for the record, please.
Are they done? I don't know. I don't know why we're changing that.
Gloria
Our
Jimenez,
philosophy
I'm
here.
part owner on the property. So this was never an issue, really. Like, we've been here since May with this commission, reviewing. Every time we come, we get a new list of issues to address, and we do. And then we come back, and then another list of issues comes, and we address them. So,
How old is the tank?
no, I know. I mean.
It's old.
It's old,
Right.
but I'm like, why is this coming
Well,
up now?
It's a discussion.
Yeah.
It's a discussion.
So it's
not
old,
just for this project, it's for
it's old, it's
everything.
existing, it's been there. We don't have anyone working at the property right now
Yeah,
since.
the house, everything's pretty much done, except they were planning on replacing that front tank. Now we're going to abandon that. We're going to do the main tank for the house instead.
It's in the purview of the commission to consider this, but it seems we have to go back to May 20th, 2011 to look at what was
Well-
approved by the EPC in the last time.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality it is whether it's Hokan, Hoffman, or Santa, and you say, hey, I want to move the propane tank, someone comes out and moves the propane tank. This isn't a huge economic cost or a disturbance, or this is like, hey, the right thing to do, because this commission has been kind and helped this applicant along more than other applicants. Maybe we just move the propane tank out of the wetland. Sounds like the right thing to do.
Is there a zoning setback that we have to deal with if we move those tanks? 'Cause we
I
can-
think the zoning setback, there's an engineer in the room that might not know the answer to that, but I think you can put propane tanks pretty close to the property line.
No, you have to comply with zoning, above-ground tanks.
Yeah, but you could still,
You got to comply with the
Well,
zoning.
listen, what if we move
setbacks.
them out and we bury them?
you can do whatever you want,
But you gotta put that in your memo now, so that I don't have to come back, because that's more excavation.
as long as they're not in the wetland.
We could bury them right over here. Right at the back of the driveway. Be easier to fill up too.
You could put one bigger tank.
Yeah, in ground.
And you're thinking, easier to fill up too. I see, we're working together here. This is good. This is good.
You know. Because the wetlands jog in, because this was.
All right.
I mean, this is completely agnostic to where this applicant is on their process. Is generally anything that's in the wetland while there's construction operations going on. I'll be the first to admit, I completely missed that there were above-ground tanks in the wetland. And to be frank, if it was an in-ground in the wetland and we missed it, I don't think I'd be making a big issue out of it. But this is an easy fix. And there's not a huge economic cost to that at all.
Unless
All
you
right.
bury it.
Excuse me?
Yeah, unless we bury it, yeah.
Yeah, you may have to anchor it if it's in.
Wilder wants to
Excuse
come
me,
up
yeah,
with-
Wilder Gleason, if you're burying it in its high water table, which we have here, then you're going to have to anchor it. You need a concrete slab strapping, and the life of the buried tank will be substantially less.
Well, that's if you decide that you want a bigger tank and you want to bury it underground. You can just move the existing tank and hug it to the house and be done.
Yeah, it's, I don't know where, I guess where you put it, I don't know, Gloria, where.
I got an issue with it.
Do the right thing. I don't know if you want it back there, we just have source of put it over here.
Well, listen, we're not going to design this
You can
tonight.
screen it.
I think the main question
It's
is
just
what was involved in the generator
We're not
permit?
going to design it
I
tonight.
don't know.
We're not looking to design.
Look, we're not going to design it tonight. We have
Yeah.
the engineer here.
Yeah.
You go take a look at it. You talk to Rick.
You can make
Yeah.
a condition, I think.
Yeah,
if
I can work
That
with
we
Rick
take
on
it
this.
out and locate it somewhere in compliance with applicable codes. That
It's easy.
That
Sounds
becomes.
like a great idea.
Thank you, Will. All right. Okay, so that's a follow-up here, Rick, too, and Brian. Okay, does any other commission member have any other? No? Okay, then. Thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks. Moving on, approval
Make it with
of...
a resolution for next.
Oh, yeah, why don't you write a resolution, and we'll write the condition. A Wilder suggestion. Moving on here, approval of minutes. Commission members have the draft of the minutes. Any questions or comments for Rick? Bill, anything?
No, sorry.
Yeah.
Here's the copies of the landscape plan, which we didn't.
Do you want me to make a motion?
Okay.
We'll get there in a second. Okay. Yeah, why don't you make a motion for approval of the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular EPC meeting of September 3rd, 2025.
Second motion to approve minutes, September 3rd.
All in favor? Okay. Agent approvals, EPC 21-25, PL 25-124, 1 Timber Lane, G Templin and K Templin to construct an in-ground pool drainage, construction accessway, and other related features proximate to the wetlands and designated open space. That's great. Property lines along the east side of Timber Lane, just north of Hollow Tree Ridge Road, and it's identified as map number 3, lot 40. The zone is R2, and it is approximately 2.01 acres. Rick?
Mr. Chairman, I accomplished this review per your direction as an agent approval, the applicant has provided detailed plans and detailed and pretty extensive landscaping plan for this pool and a small drainage system. They've secured the approval of the town's consulting engineer on the drainage. They've maintained substantial setbacks to both the wetlands and the open space that's situated on another property. And the vast majority of the encroachment has to do with the proposed construction access way. They've even gone as far as trying to look at other ways of accessing the rear of the property in order to construct the pool, but there were limitations imposed by not only resources, trees and other wetlands on the other side of the property, but the septic system lies immediately adjacent to it. This is clean and clear access over lawn that is only within, by virtue, it's in the wetland setback. With that, it being a de minimis activity, I drafted an agent approval that will be transmitted to the owners as early as tomorrow.
Any questions?
Yeah, can you tell me about the open space? I mean, this has been coming up in some of our, I know it's not on the property, but what is this open space? Is it a?
Right within the subdivision, it looked to be only a 10-foot wide swath along the property boundary, generally to provide screening. It met the requirement from the subdivision, and they didn't do it to include wetlands or water courses on it. It looked to be only a screening 10-foot wide patch that ran along all the lots. So
when was that done? I'm just curious. When was that? Like a recent subdivision or years and years ago?
Years ago.
Okay.
And who owns it? I mean, is it?
Oh, it's still owned by the owners of the adjoining property owners.
I think early 70s?
It's restricted.
So do those people know that a pool's going in there, and I'm just curious because, they have this, what they potentially bought was a buffer, I guess you're saying it was a buffer for screening. Now you have a pool noise factor. I'm just curious if they know what's going on here.
They were not given notice because we did not have a public hearing on this.
This might be a surprise to them. We'll see.
Again,
It depends how they envision this open space and what it's not a conservation easement, is what you're
But the
saying.
open space is on the adjoining property owner's property, not on this property. So the integrity of that open space and what's in it and the vegetation that's in it is going to remain. And then this pool is set back to and there's a stone wall that there's a firm division between the two properties. So the pool is set back from the stone wall, the drainage is set back from the stone wall as well.
Okay.
And there's trees too.
And the other thing is that they've made provisions to keep all but one relatively small tree that's on the property. So they're sitting right in a bank of lawn, a pretty extensive area of lawn, avoiding the septic area, protecting trees with fences. And I think they're only taking one down that's a smaller tree that's in the path. But everything along that wall will remain as is the open space. And again, the planting plan is actually magnificent for this project.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Carolyn? Okay. Moving on. We have a public hearing tonight, EPC 22-2025, PL 25-129, 769 Hollow Tree Ridge Road, T. Van Eslander and B. Van Eslander, to subdivide an existing 5.4006 acre property into two parcels of 2.3688 acres, lot number 1, and 3.0319 acres, lot number 2, and to construct a new single-family residence, drive, drainage, subsurface sewage area disposal system, and other related features in and approximate to wetlands and water courses. The property lies along the west side of Hollow Tree Ridge Road, approximately 675 feet south of Sherry Lane, and it identified as map number 3, lot number 59, the zone is R2, and this is approximately 5.4006 acres. Rick?
Chairman, just some housekeeping before we get into the meat of the public hearing testimony. This application was accepted on September 3rd at our last meeting. The commission, during its providing its preliminary comments on this application, which again is for subdivision and creating of a new lot on a single-family dwelling on a new parcel, the commission determined to hold a public hearing based on a finding of public interest. Staff, taking that information, generated what they call a Section 9 letter, which is saying it's going to be subject to a public hearing, establishing the public hearing date, given notice that notice to adjoiners will be required, as well as legal notice publication. That hearing was scheduled for this evening in accordance with the regulations in terms of timetable. We generated a list of additional information based on your preliminary comments and inspection of the site, as well as our inspections of the site. That was issued on September 10th. We made referrals to both health and our engineering consultant to look at matters relating to septic systems, feasibility of systems. The engineering having to do with drainage and water quality, essentially. Legal notice of this public hearing was published in the Darien Times by our office in 2 timeframes that are consistent with what the regulation calls for. The property owner, the applicants representatives of the property owner had submitted and sent out the individual notice to the abutters in accordance with the regulations. And in terms of information, the agenda summary outlines the plans and reports and other information that has been provided by the applicant. We can just make reference to it to say in order to save time. But those have been carefully detailed on here, as well as the prior plans that had been submitted and have been improved through this process. I will make reference to all the plans and materials in both electronic and the paper files of the EPC pertaining to EPC application 22-2025. Things that there are references to, but we've also received following the preparation of our agenda summary report that are pertinent to the discussion, have to do with Joe Canis has reviewed the drainage and water quality reports and has offered no objection or request for additional information, and has endorsed the findings and preliminary design of those systems. And then the health department has confirmed the feasibility of septic systems. There's been correspondence generated, and of course, as you move forward towards a building permit, additional plans and details will be necessary in order to secure a building permit for the new dwelling. Just in 5 minutes, and then I'm sure that the applicant will go in great detail on the proposal. The property, and I think most of you have been there, along the west side of Hollow Tree, just south of Sherry Lane. Currently, there's a single-family dwelling on the property, detached accessory buildings, a barn, in-ground pool, driveway, walkways, patios, a rather unique property, underground tanks, fences, pedestrian footbridges. In general, the site is characterized by the presence of gently sloping developed lands. There's wooded wetlands on the property. There's wetlands that have been maintained as manicured lawn. There's a pond, or portions of a pond on the property, perennial watercourse, stone walls, and many large trees throughout. Soils report was completed. If you look at the general wetlands mapping, it showed more extensive wetlands on the property than had been defined in detail by the soil scientist. The wetlands occupy about now let's say it's about a third of the property to the west, closest to the brook and the pond. The rest of it is uplands, and it's not fill, it's essentially native soils, Paxton Montauk series soils. This brook and pond kind of meanders to the south, eventually joining Stony Brook in the vicinity of Oxridge Lane. The property is not in the flood zone, and if you'll note in your package of materials that there was a brief environmental assessment that was completed by Stephen Danzer, and he goes into a bit more detail about his view of what the impacts of the proposal are. So, in general, development will necessitate, this is for a subdivision, and again, to create a lot capable of supporting a new single-family dwelling. Lot 1 shall support the existing residential structure, pool, and related features. You'll see on that lot, and I'm sure again the detail, necessary improvements include a new subsurface sewage disposal system, a reconfigured drive, and modified drainage structures, basically by modifying the driveway and curbing on that lot. Lot 2 shall support the new single-family residence. Necessary improvements shall include new subsurface sewage disposal system, a well, subject to further investigation. They may be able to use the existing one that's there. Subsurface drainage, private driveway, and other related features as part of the application process, as with generally all of our applications. The applicant shall demonstrate that has avoided or minimized impacts on the regulated areas and resources, utilize measures to preserve and enhance water quality, address potential drainage and groundwater impacts, demonstrated septic feasibility, and provided measures to mitigate for unavoidable impacts or improve the overall conservation values of the property. And through this process too, the discussion of alternatives is pertinent to the discussion, and the applicant will certainly go into that. Site plans, there's a hefty collection of site plans. Wetland encroachments are limited to the restoration of a drainage channel that's down by the edge of the, towards the pond and wetland system. Removal of existing drainage pipes in the vicinity of the existing septic system. The addition of riprap to a newly established drainage outfall. They're going to create mowed and chip pedestrian pathways along the edge of the river, and the addition of native landscaping, creating a meadow, a mixed meadow kind of environment down along the edge of the watercourse. About 480 square feet of wetlands shall be temporarily or permanently affected by the non-landscape related elements of the project. In the upland review area, those encroachments involve removal of the existing drainage and septic facilities, construction of new portions of a new septic system and drainage features, including riprap end wall infiltration units, piping, and junctions, installation of walls. The walls themselves are basically as a demarcation feature for the restored space, placement of fill, regrading, installation of mowed chip pathways, and the addition of landscaping. It's reported about 7,400 square feet of the upland review area is temporarily or permanently affected. Grade change. We'll go over into how extensive the setbacks are to the wetlands and water courses proper. The piping in the pond and it's about 143 feet to the pond and wetlands with the major components. The lesser components are about 40 feet to the wetlands. Grade change is low to moderate. Basically, the placement of fills along the rear of the the placement of fills along the rear of the dwelling. One large tree removed from regulated areas, although up to 20 trees on the property will be removed or altered. And those trees range from 12 to 36 inches DBH. There was a drainage and water quality plan. There's an extensive system of drainage to mitigate the impacts. And I'm sure Mr. Flaherty will go in great detail with it because it is rather a complex system to attenuate the impacts. And what you'll find, and if you go through the drainage report, is that as a result of the improvements that they're being proposed. There'll be no adverse impacts on drainage and adjoining properties for the storms that are typically studied. They're also holding back the water quality volume. They've also done test holes to demonstrate the feasibility of these systems. And again, Joe Canis has endorsed those systems. One important component of the system is this has all been designed to meet the new drainage manual, although it had come in advance of the drainage manual. Of special interest to the commission, has been pointed out, in our preliminary comments, has to do with the sump pump and drainage generated from the basement systems. And they'll go into how they have a combination of crawl spaces and regular basement systems, but the basement sump pump drainage is going to its own system to attenuate its impact. Water quality, basic sediment erosion control is included. Drainage collection structures equipped with what you typically require for deep sumps and bell traps. They're using infiltration to attenuate so to cool and treat runoff. Drainage outlets shall be armored. Health Department, again, has confirmed the feasibility of the systems, because again, they're removing a system, building a new system in the existing one, and a new system with the new dwelling. And then the landscape mitigation plan is pretty extensive, and again, it's creating this meadow, this mixed meadow. They're removing invasives, adding substantial native conservation-based plantings. Again, the non-native invasives will be removed over a 3-year period initially. They have a cutting schedule for it, a little additional cutting schedule for the grass pathways that they're proposing. Kind of unique, this restacked stone walls along the edge that are be the demarcation feature. And they put the other standard, what this commission has as their standard landscape practices having to do with no substitutions it has to be per the direction of the landscape installer and confined to natives. Limitations on synthetic deer repellents, organic land care practices to apply to the property to the extent feasible. They did a very limited tree assessment. It didn't cover the entire property. It covered trees that are in essentially the very close development envelope around the dwelling itself. And there's been recommendations that have been implemented for temporary and permanent protection of those features. Last but not least, there's been some discussion of alternatives and how they got to where they are, and that'll be covered by the team this evening. And we've, again, had based on your initial comments in our review, developed a letter back on September 10th that outlined the Commission's concerns. Basically, if you use that as the guideline for your review and assessment of it, you'll be on the right track. And a lot of what's been done by the applicant has been in response to that letter. So with that, I'll turn it over to the
Question first, did you get any comments from neighbors?
No. So I'll turn it over to the applicant, and they can make their presentation, and I'll be available to answer questions if need be.
Okay.
For the record, Wilder Gleason representing Brian and Tiffany Van Elslander, who have lived here for 13 years, and they're now looking to build essentially their retirement home on this property, which is a beautiful property. If you walked it, it's really lovely, and it's been very well maintained. And they love the brook and the stream, and they've sited their house to take advantage of that with the wetland meadow that will be in place once we're done. So if we could go, Craig, to the next. So the site is here. It's outlined. Here's the pond, which is straddling the property line, and there's an elbow down here. And neighbors to the north, Hollow Tree Ridge on the east. And the property slopes greatly, basically down from here to the pond. Excuse me.
Do you have to answer that, Wilder?
I
You just called them, Mike?
Depends how much money we got.
You call me.
Just glad it's not mine.
What's your ringtone?
I don't miss that ringtone. In any event, if we could go to the next slide. Right. Yeah.
Existing or what the?
Yeah, let's do existing conditions if we've got that. Yeah, so what you have is the house, this is the property, pond down here, outflow, existing house, pool, driveway, barn to be removed with propane tanks, septic system here in the upland review area, not in the wetlands. Drainage structures here, and most of this is mowed grass. It was there when the Van Elslanders purchased. They've continued to do that. It's really a lovely property. But the main house and everything else is here. So when they first approached me almost, I think 3 years ago about this, we said, okay, we can make a subdivision, it'll work. And we've worked with Craig and his team to develop a plan that works. And basically, we're going to remove this septic system and put a new one up here. And, let's go to the next one. So that allows us to create a lot, and it's a little screwy, but the reason it's screwy is we had to get a new septic system in here. And this septic system is entirely out of the upland review area, but there is fill. I mean, this gallery doesn't encroach into the upland review area, but we have fill associated with that. And there's the house that has been designed. We have architectural plans that we've submitted to the planning and zoning, and with a garage and everything else. New driveway, new curb cut here for a new driveway. We'll be reusing the existing curb cut. And we have to go to planning and zoning to get a subdivision approval, and also to obtain a permit for land filling and regrading. We're doing some regrading within 15 feet of the property line. We have over 50 cubic yards of fill associated with this development. We have to get an 850 permit, which basically says, are we going to create adverse impacts on the neighbors? And Craig and his team and Ryan Salvatore, the architect, have designed this with input from the Van Elslanders, so we have no impact on neighbors. All the water that is flowing now into the pond and brook will continue to do that. It will not migrate to neighboring properties. So we have a new septic system here. It meets MLSS requirements. Craig will talk about that. We have to put some fill in the upland review area to accommodate that and make it work. There are other drainage detention structures. It's above my pay grade to describe that to you. Craig will give you the details. But rather than put markers at the edge of the upland review area, we're taking advantage of existing low stone walls, these two ones right here, and just adding another one that is similar. So we're 15 feet or more away from the upland review area, and then everything downhill from that becomes wetland meadow and or planted areas. And Craig will elaborate on the different types of plants we have here. Our landscape architect was unable to attend, but she has armed Craig in full detail about what's going on. And in response to the comments about native plants, we went out, we modified certain things. I mean, 3 of the river birch that we were going to put in, we're taking down a 12-inch Norway spruce here, and we're going to replace it with 3 native gray birch. They're not river birch. Those aren't on the list from the Connecticut, whatever list of native plants. So we've made a number of changes to address that concern and that comment. So extensive landscaping, over 450 different plants, and these are not plugs. These are 1 gallon to, bigger containers. And so big landscaping and mown path here. We're looking to trim that 3 times a year, up to 3 times a year. Happy to do May and October mowing, but we're worried about invasives. And we may need to do a third mowing between those first two. And that's basically controlled invasives. And we would continue to mow the path. Because that provides passive recreation, which is an as-of-right use of the property. This is 1.17 acres. It's a 5-acre site. Over 20% of our site is going to be essentially dedicated to passive recreation and restoration and enhancement of the wetlands and the upland review area, a substantial portion of the upland review area. So every decision that the Van Elselanders have made has basically been to do the right thing and reduce impact and enhance wetlands and water courses. We are, let me just see, what did I miss? I think we have 350 cubic yards of fill in the upland review. Is that what it was, Craig?
Yeah, along this boundary.
Yeah. So that's not a huge amount, but it is fill. And then, let's see. Oh, there's a drainage channel in here that we're going to restore. It was modified recently, and we're fixing that. We're removing a bunch of drainage pipes, and we are the native landscaping. So Craig's designed a plan to detain, right now, there's no stormwater detention on this site. Water flows out, there's nothing underground to treat it to meet the current or the updated standards for stormwater. This plan takes this site from totally non-compliant to 100% compliant. It says zero increased runoff in a 100-year storm now, is that? You ran it to a 100-year storm. I think the regs may be 50 years, so we've doubled that. And as Rick mentioned, we know that some pumps are a concern. There's a special detention system for that, so that all that is trapped on site, it's treated, and then it flows eventually after treatment into the pond. Let's see.
At some point you have to introduce me, I don't know if that's on there.
I think that's it, you know, I sort of, and Craig will take it from here and give you the details. But the sense here is that this is a marked improvement over existing conditions. It addresses, I think, all the reasonable concerns that you may have about this. And I do know that we are transplanting some yellow iris that are on the site that are going to be down here by the pond. I forget where it is at transplant for the, Craig threw that on there. So we are being as sensitive as we can to concerns that you may have. And I think as you listen to Craig's elaboration of this, you will feel that we've looked at alternatives and made the right decision every time so that you can approve this. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Craig Flaherty. I'm a principal and senior engineer with Redness & Mead, a land use consulting company with offices in Stamford and Wilton. I'm a professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut, and Redness & Mead has been providing civil engineering services and zoning consulting services on this project for our clients, the Van Elslanders. Starting with the end in mind, I hope your initial reaction is that this is a good application and we can be confident that at the end of the day, these wetlands and water courses and the associated resources are going to be left in a better condition by virtue of the proposal before you. So I'm going to just start with the end in mind. But I'll go over the details as we need to for the record of the public hearing and hopefully pre-answer any other detailed questions that you might come up with. This is not our first rodeo, as you know. Been doing this for a while. And as Wilder described, literally every step of the design process, we were making tweaks. We were pushing back and forth on the proposal, elevating the elevating the floor elevation, reducing the size of the basement, figuring out where we could put the septic, figuring out where we could put the storm. We made a lot of decisions to get here so that we could be confident in presenting a plan to you that we knew was a plan that would leave these wetlands and watercourses in better stead by virtue of this proposed application. And hopefully you'll agree by the end of the presentation, or maybe you agree now, and that's fine, you can tune out. So.
Nice try.
This started back in 2023 with an existing condition survey. Through 2024, we were evaluating the soils on site and working with the health department to design the systems. So the way it works, we've gone through the design review phase so that we've submitted a full design to them. They have reviewed that full design and they have agreed that full design meets the health code. We can't go to the next step because the next step you actually need a licensed septic installer to request a permit to construct, right? So we're just not there yet, so that's why I haven't gone to that step. And then the third step, of course, is permit to discharge, and that's when you provide all the as-built and the certifications and the inspection reports for them to offer the permit to discharge. So we've done the design review, and that's where we're at. So we know this design will work. As Wilder described, we remove the existing system from the upland review area and replace it up here. This is a 6-bedroom system serving this house. This will now require a pump chamber to get up to that location. Pump chamber and septic tank, plus or minus where the septic tank is today, off the west side of the home. Then to serve this 5-bedroom home, this is a gravity-based system, and we put a new septic system where you see it in the magenta or purple 5-bedroom home, meeting the minimum leaching system spread. Those galleries themselves are actually a little higher than the existing ones that were here, and that's a good thing, right? We want to make sure we meet the separation distance between the bottom of the system and any evidence of seasonal high groundwater. So the bottom of these systems are 18-24 inches above seasonal high groundwater. And because we've met that, so we've met the separation distance to groundwater, and then you have the construction of the fields, and then you have fill over the top of the fields, that's why this fill pocket exists around that particular septic system. And so that's why you have a little bit of grading in the upland review area in that location. We position those rows where we feel the soils are most conducive to a successful and compliant septic system. The stormwater management. You've got collection, conveyance, mitigation, treatment, and discharge. So there are a series of existing pipes on the property. There's a curtain drain along the northerly property boundary with a pipe that comes down here through the wetlands into this drainage channel. There is a curtain drain at the front of the property and some yard drains in the landscaped areas that come down to some piped outlets that you can observe close to the brook over here. And then there's the footing drain for the primary house and a couple of surface drains over here that get collected and come down and discharge where this pipe outlet is here in this drainage channel. So this is a man-made water feature. It's fully lined, has a pond liner, has constructed rocks. It was meant to be like a waterfalling feature to look at and enjoy the sound of. It used to have water pumped from the pond. It has not been operational in years, but that will all be removed. It is not a regulated area as determined by Steve Danzer, our soil scientist, because it is fully lined and man-made and has no wetland soils or vegetation. Although that is where some of the yellow flag iris was planted, again, for kind of aesthetic landscaping, and that's where we're going to pull those out and place down here closer to the pond where we believe they'll be happier. These are, again, clearly kind of dug drainage channels. If you've seen them, fairly sharp trapezoidal profile, again, stabilized with cobbles and rocks and stones in a very stable situation here. So in terms of, we're going to, curtain drains remain, footing drain remains. What changes is we end up changing the
location of where this pipe is going to be. We're going to take this one out and bring it to where our splash pad is. So we actually take this pipe out of the wetlands and put it in the splash pad. This one entirely goes away, and this goes away. But what we've done with the proposed drainage system, we chose this exact point for the end of our splash pad of the new drainage system. So basically, we're going in an area that already has rocks in it and putting the rocks for our riprap splash pad and putting it at that same point where it'll discharge into these kind of dug drainage channels that go down to the pond. Of course, before it discharges, it's going to be treated. Yeah, that's the one tree within the upland review area that needs to be removed. That's the 12-inch spruce. There are a number of mature trees on the rest of the properties that are being removed. This was no small decision. The clients have been living there for 13 years. They love the way the property looks. They're excited once they kind of get in and see how it looks to replant. They want a property with lawn and mature trees, but ultimately to stay on this property, which they love, and build the home that they want to retire into now that their kids are grown and gone. There's certain things that have to happen, but those are all effectively out of the upland review area. So the stormwater system, we have about 12,000 square feet of impervious coverage here on Lot 2. And you can see the outline of the stormwater system in cyan below this colored exhibit. I should say this package of presentation exhibits, it's no new information, but we colored it up to make the conversation easier. We did upload those to Viewpoint earlier today, so these are a part of the record. So you see in cyan kind of the components of the system. So that first thing I mentioned was that footing drain and yard drains that come down here. We're going to repipe and include in this system to discharge at the same location where that stabilized splash pad will be. But there's kind of three big pieces of the drainage and dewatering system design, and I'll zoom in on that a little bit. So first, we tried to capture as much water as possible in the system on the east side of the house. But that system is uphill of the house, and it's into grade at a depth. So because of the soil conditions there, we can't do infiltration in this location. We can only do detention in this location. So water won't be soaking into the ground here. It'll just be a volume that accepts runoff from the driveway and the front drive court and some of the front roof leaders of the house. And it works to knock off peak flows. So you collect the quick rush of water and you have a small pipe out. So it slows the water down and stores it in this volume and then kind of trickles out. And ultimately that trickle out will be then tributary to where we've placed the infiltration system. And the reason we've placed the infiltration system here is, one, we need some system on the downhill side of the house, but also because this is a moderately sloping lot, as we have a flat drive court and house roughly, we end up with a fill package here. And that's a perfect place to place this infiltration system, similar to the septic system. We get the bottom of it above groundwater, so that infiltration system will always be dry, and we can be confident that the water running into that infiltration system will percolate into the ground. And so that's where we meet our water quality volume, our runoff reduction volume. And again, as said, even though we were not required to, because it was not in effect when we filed our application, we chose to follow the requirements of your new manual. So we are doing 1.3 inches of water quality volume instead of 1 inch of water quality volume. We're analyzing everything with the 50-year storm. We actually included the 100-year storm. We're using the latest rainfall rates. We've complied fully with your new manual, as has been confirmed by Joe Canis of Ty and Pond. So anyway, this overflows down here, goes into the infiltration system, picks up the roof leaders and gutters and such from the back of the building, and that's what ends up in this system there. And then when and if that overflows, it will come down into this manhole here. It'll drop to release vertically some energy from running water. So we have this pipe set really flat to to keep the water coming out of the end of that pipe at a low velocity. And then we've designed this splash pad in accordance with state standards and requirements to accept that rushing water out of that pipe and slow it down even further before it releases into these drainage channels and goes on its way downstream. I'll get to the third in a second. But ultimately, we have chosen a study point to analyze the peak flows before and after at this location. So we have not only what's coming off Lot 2, we've analyzed what's coming off Lot 1, and we've analyzed the watershed to the pond and this watercourse. It's not huge, it's like 7 acres. It's some of those lots on Sherry Lane that come down through the pond and this watercourse. So we have an understanding of kind of the bigger picture of how water is flowing through here and how our influence will kind of impact that. So that was our study point. And that's where we have, in the 1 through 100 year storm, reduced the peak rate of runoff, so we know that no one downstream is going to have a problem. And so with that, I guess I'll get to the other thing we did here. It's a calculation that we do. It's called stream channel protection. So there's a component of state stormwater regulations, which basically says when you're worried about kind of erosive velocities in a channel, a good rule of thumb is to make sure that your proposed 2-year flow coming out of your detention system is less than half of that existing flow coming into that detention system. So we knock in those small storms, because really channels tend to develop a geometry around the 2-year storm. So we know that we're kind of over detaining that 2-year storm. It's called stream channel protection. So we've achieved that result here at the discharge. So the last component of the system really is the dewatering system, right? So the new drainage manual for the town of Darien requires that when you have a sump pump discharge, you have its own dedicated infiltration system to accept the sump pump discharge and soak it back into the ground, so that sump pump discharge in and of itself doesn't start causing a problem either towards resources or towards neighbors. Here we have the benefit of, there's not really much potential for impact for neighbors because kind of everything runs down to the pond and watercourse first, but ultimately we followed the requirements of the manual. And first what we did was to try to make that system as small as possible. We didn't want to put a big one in, so we went through a process with the client and the architect and the landscape architect of trying to push the first floor up as high as possible. Therefore, the portions of the basement and the crawl space weren't into groundwater more than they needed to be, so we did that first. And then the second thing we did is challenge the client to say, how much basement do you really need, right? In terms of this house, can we limit it to the smallest footprint that you're comfortable with? And that's what we did. And so what you see here, this is the only portion of the footprint of the home that actually has full basement. It's less than 30% of the footprint of the home. Garage is slab on grade, no groundwater concerns there. The north section of the main body of the home is crawl space. And so we went through the calculations in the manual to determine, and really you're kind of looking at the worst case scenario because you're looking at the uphill side of groundwater depth and crawl space depth to determine how much water might be coming into this area on the uphill side of the basement. For example, this side of the crawl space is actually above existing grade, right? So it's not contributing to groundwater, but you're using the worst point and going around that whole perimeter. So anyway, your standards are conservative, and we've met them. So we come up with how much groundwater is contributing to the crawl space area, how much groundwater is contributing to the full basement area, and then we size this separate infiltration system to the north of the house to manage that. And it's designed for equilibrium, so it will continue to accept the amount of sump pump water being discharged to it without overflow. Just designed for equilibrium. And we did include an overflow that hooks back up into the main system, just in case. So at the end of the day, I think it was just yesterday or the day before, we got Joe Canis's kind of third review, which eliminated any of the questions that he had, or additional information, or minor edits that we needed to make, largely to the plans. Right from the get-go, our drainage report was satisfactory. There's a lot of notes and details and stuff on the plans that we updated to satisfy their concerns, or requests for information, edits, that sort of thing. To the landscape plan now. So there's a few zones, and as Wilder mentioned, in total, all these little dots you see here and here and here are pots, 1 gallon plus size pots, to be planted with grasses, sedges, and ferns. And you see the pictures of the grasses, sedges, and ferns in the lower right. In this area, where we basically have wooded cover, we've chosen to create this really kind of dense buffer along the water course. So any water coming overland has to filter through that. It will help stabilize, if there's floods and so forth. This helps stabilize the ground in here. And this is where we've put 113 ferns and 131 shade-loving sedges. And then there's area 2 and area 3, which are actually kind of fringe. They're outside the wetland, but inside, before that wall, that demarcation wall that we're placing 15 to 20 feet from the edge of the wetlands. And so in that area, it's more grasses. So area 2 here is 126 grasses. And area 3 is 95 grasses. And again, the pictures of those different plants are down here in the corner. So the top 2 left, these are the ferns. Where's the sedges? I think that's the sedge. These are the grasses. And then lastly, we have the wetland meadow itself. And looking back at this exhibit, we've kind of highlighted in yellow where the limit of maintained landscape is today. So you can get a sense for how much of this area is actually recovered lawn. The goal here is not to see the wetlands as a liability, but to see the wetlands as an asset, right? And you can tell by how the house was sited to look over this wetland meadow with a few trees in it and see views to the pond, that this is really celebrating now this kind of ecological improvement. Not only is it going to be good for the land and the critters and the biodiversity, but it's going to be really pretty to look at, which I think would then motivate this owner who's directed the landscape plan, but also subsequent owners to want this to continue to be beautiful, right, in that way. And that's the kind of thrust of the landscape design here. And these kind of provide frames, where you have a little more woodland over here and these grasses over here and a little more woodland over here and the grasses over here. They kind of frame this picture that is coming off the back of the house. And so the relationship of the house to all of that is integral in terms of its elevation and its view. Three gray birch in the wetlands. They're kind of right about there. I'll show on this plan here. Here. And then mention those irises that are going to come down here. And then in terms of invasive species management, the good news is it's a reasonably unaffected property from invasive species invasion. Landscape architect mentioned some olive, mentioned some burning bush, largely in the north section. So this is just hand removal, no chemicals, clipped, over a 3-season basis. Try to knock them back the best we can and really try to prevent them from coming back by exploiting all the plantings that we are doing. So, another component, there will be some steps coming down the slope from the house to get to this grass path. And again, this is just grass, it's not mulch, it's not gravel, it's just grass to walk around and enjoy the area. We like the passive enjoyment of the resource. We like to have eyes down there. We like to have owners care about how this looks moving forward. So I, should do some stuff that we normally do. We have a full sediment and erosion control plan, notes and details included in the civil set that's a part of the application. Planning and zoning will also be reviewing, tracking pads, storage areas, tree protection, silt fence, perimeter, double lined with hay bales in between, kind of belts and suspenders, as I like to do as an engineer. So I should say, yes, we did have Larry Brown, Connecticut licensed arborist, go out and specifically look at the handful of trees that are close to areas of disturbance, and he provided recommendations for both giving them the best shot during construction, but also following up with aeration and fertilizer and so forth after construction. And that report is in your record. And of course, the applicant will be following his recommendations, and if you wanted to mention that as a condition, that would be fine. We have, as part of our team, Steve Danzer, PhD, professional wetland scientist, soil scientist, and arborist. And not only did he prepare the soils report for the property, but he prepared the environmental report for the property, dated August 25th, 2025. Ultimately looked at the soils, he looked at the vegetation, he looked at the hydrology, he looked at the functions and values of the resource. And I'll read you the one sentence at the end of the report. The proposal will not significantly impact or change or diminish or otherwise detrimentally alter the ecological communities or the functions or values of the wetland and watercourse areas and pond. And that, of course, really is the heart of your jobs as the Environmental Protection Commission, is to make sure applications before you are not creating an adverse impact. And if you can make them even net positive, all the better. We think, again, this is a clear net positive in a substantial direction. Thank my clients for being willing to do this and being willing to listen to the advice of the professional team, really the excellent professional team that they hired to prepare these plans and designs, because this is important to them, and they wanted to make sure they had a plan that they knew was going to be approved. I think that might be the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions from the commission.
Bill, you want to start?
Just one quick one.
Yes, sir.
I realize it's not on this plan, swimming pool, but it will be someday. They all do. So no problem with a swimming pool. I see it, definitely there's room there, but tying any of that into your water management in the future?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, depends where, how big, what size, but we usually find a way, yeah. And thankfully, I think there's still a fair amount of room in the upland area on the south side of the house where we could probably get one, but not needed now.
Okay. And the other positive comment, it's one of the first projects I've gone to where the entire house was all staked out, so it was very simple, as I think you had mentioned it. I didn't catch it the first time.
And they were even labeled. They were even, the stakes had the,
The orange one.
rear,
And the upland review area.
Yeah.
So we'd love to see that with everybody doing that.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to see where the 50-foot zone was and the wetlands, but also the house was most important. So that's all I had, but thank you.
Michael?
I'm just happy Wilder didn't color in the site plan for us and let Craig do it. I mean, I saw Wilder and I was expecting like Crayola crayon and the small easel board. Is that why
That's
there's a can?
Patrick, by the way.
Yeah, I know. We know Patrick did all the work. Is that why it's a candlestick septic, is so that there's room for a future pool? I'm agnostic.
No. It was 100% driven by the length of the septic system.
Yeah.
And also the need to make sure that the setback as we came here did not
Oh,
change.
well, yeah, because you have a trapezoidal shape there,
Yeah,
which makes
and-
it really
and-
fun for a
yeah.
septic system.
Yes.
I
Well, so
got
this
that.
is, again, the phrase that you heard during the last application, MLSS, is minimum leaching system spread.
Yeah.
So you have to spread it out across the contractor contour a minimum amount, and that's why this is.
Where's all the, I mean, it's a huge property, it's a big house, totally get all that, I'm in favor of the application, I don't have any issues. Why is there 300, I mean, it's funny, because Wilder said it wasn't a lot, and 350 cubic yards of fill is 16 dump trucks, so
Yep.
where's all the soil?
And you can kind of see the lines in here, right? So there is fill associated with the septic system to get that above groundwater. There's fill package around the infiltration system to get that above groundwater and have the storage required there.
So you had to pick it, so obviously you had to lift it up so the septic would
Yes.
work.
Yes.
Did you have to lift it up for the same reasons?
For the stormwater too, yeah. We want the bottom of
For
the
the storm-
stormwater
for the
to be-
stormwater as
yeah,
well.
to be
Okay.
above, well above groundwater, so we know it's always going to perk. I mean, I think the point there I didn't make during my presentation is, right, we know that basically this whole area today is maintain lawn and topsoil. And yes, we have to do fill in here, but at the end of the day, the area is going to be maintain lawn and topsoil. It's kind of a net no change, even in the areas that we're filling.
I didn't look at the perk. Is the reason why where's the compass? The north side of the property is crawl space, or I don't know.
No, I think well, this is, when you look at the elevations of the ground, this was the lowest area. So again, that was easier to go with the basement there versus say the basement here, and we have to go even deeper relative to existing grade. So it was.
Well, just a house of that size, but 99% of everybody just digs a full basement.
Yes.
Is it just being belt and suspender prudent that you're not going to have impact by groundwater, or there really isn't a need for a basement there?
Well, look, I think we took to heart the clear direction of the new drainage manual, which is trying to discourage basements where they're not required. And we took to heart placing this basement in the most sensitive location possible.
Because the thought process is every time you put a basement in the ground, you're displacing water in highly populated areas?
Honestly, I'll tell you what I feel as an engineer is, we get the phone calls when you get the foreign train events, and water always wins, as well as you design it. So honestly, the first thing I caution many of my clients now is, think about what you need, and let's size it around that.
Okay. And then, just selfishly, please update me on when you have sump pumps. It's not required to have detention for sump pumps.
It is,
right?
It is now.
It is.
In the new drainage.
New
As of
drainage.
September 21st in the town of Darien.
Brand new.
Prior, you could just level spread it, right?
Yep. Or just add it as kind of a topper to the,
Right.
previously, we
Yeah, it would
just
be a
added to
topper
that.
on the lawn and a place for the water to go.
Yeah, or like we put it into this piece and not even have that piece. Yeah, the one way to get around it is if you had a walkout basement with a gravity discharge. Right? So they've kind of let that go because they figure it's going to half and half.
And what's the formula? How do you
Oh,
size?
gosh.
No. No, rule of thumb is, no, hold on a second. How is the detention, size? Is it just peak? It's got to be so complicated, peak flow of.
There's the formula.
There's a formula in the manual how to compute the
Yeah,
flow.
I knew we would have it, that's why I asked.
So high grade along the foundation, so your most conservative spot. Elevation of your either crawl space or basement, right? And then therefore you create the basement wall elevation. And then the total perimeter of the crawl space, right? So then you have an area of the wall. And then you have the hydraulic conductivity, which is the porosity of the soils based on kind of what we see and the requirements of the manual, the hydrologic soil group. And you put them all together and you get a flow. And then you back that flow the other way around through kind of our normal stormwater models to make sure it's soaking into the ground in that infiltration system.
Glad I'm not an engineer.
We are too.
Yeah, you're lucky I'm not an engineer. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm just squaring the town map of
Oh, sure.
Darien,
Yep.
the designated wetlands to this property, if you can get that. So this property's 85% wetlands, including where the new driveway is going to be. Were there soil testings?
This map.
Were there soil testings that were?
These maps were not based, unless there was a prior wetland application with a soils report, and your map was then updated with, like, for example here, clearly on this property, there was likely a soils report that defined the edge of that wetland. There has never, because this was 68 when it was built, or 63 when it was built, I think the pool was 68 or 69, there was never a wetland application on this property. So there was never a soil scientist on this property. So the first time these wetland maps were created, they're using USGS, literally 30,000 feet, and getting, an idea of like, oh, these soils are kind of like maybe over here. So these are not at all accurate when based on those old, the Fairfield County Soils Manuals, what they were, USGS, nationwide kind of soil surveys. So that's why every time you have a new application, you actually get a soil scientist out there to do augers, to walk the site, to confirm what are the actual soils on site. And sometimes you lose, right? You could have a house that didn't show any wetlands, and you get the soil scientist out there, and all of a sudden half your property's in wetlands. And I've had very unhappy clients in that situation. Sometimes you win.
So I knew all of that.
Yeah.
My question was,
Yeah.
was there a soil scientist testing in the
100%.
northeastern part where the new driveway?
He looks at the whole site when he goes out there. He doesn't just
So
look
Danzer
at
did
half the
that.
site. So you have a soils report from Steve Danzer in your record. He doesn't just classify the wetland soils, he classifies the upland soils as well.
Thank you.
Karen?
Oh, are you done, Peter?
Yep,
Oh,
thank you.
okay. So I'm going to start with the planting plan because that's easier.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I did walk the property, and I also did not notice a lot of like problematic looking invasives. I mean, sometimes you walk a property and like
Phragmites or knotweed or whatever.
it's insane,
Yeah,
but
rose.
this did not appear that way. And so one of the comments under the narrative on the wetland plan, it says the existing invasive species will be removed by hand to the fullest extent possible. So I was just wondering what was seen that led the landscape architect to think that it might not be possible to remove them by hand.
I think that's, I think that's
An
just
abundance of caution.
I think that's kind of boilerplate language, right? We did talk about invasives with her yesterday morning. She said, this is just going to be hand clipping.
Right, okay. Can we can make that a condition then,
Sure.
right? Okay. And I do think that's a very nice buffer that's installed around the pond and the water course. It's a big improvement over the existing where the lawn goes right up to the pond. So there's a nice buffer there. I think I had, I read something about how there's some existing, I don't remember, I didn't make a lot of notes on this, but there was something about the Pachysandra and how that was going to be cultivated. I don't see it on what you're showing us now, though.
That's new to me.
Okay, maybe I misread. Maybe the Pachysandra is being displaced by the wetland mix.
Yeah, I think, I will say there was one area she said, don't touch. She said, over here is very stable, it's got a good.
That was it.
Yeah, she
That's
said
it.
this area is very stable.
Yeah, that's it.
It's got a good duff layer, it's
Okay.
wooded, it's shaded well.
Okay.
It's worse to go in there and start digging and reestablish something else.
Okay.
Just leave it alone.
So that was probably
It's
the
fine.
Pachysandra.
There is Pachysandra on that side.
Yeah.
On that side, okay, all right. So just wanted to ask about that. And then I hate to bring this.
Sometimes, invasives are kind of good. they
Right.
hold the ground together.
Right.
That one in particular, in my mind, but anyway.
And I hate to bring this up because it's been mentioned a couple of times as sort of, I think, a net positive, but unless there were different varieties, my understanding is that the yellow iris is highly invasive.
Blue iris.
No, the blue flag iris.
Blue is bad, yellow is good.
I think it's the opposite.
Oh, I asked her just yesterday that very
Yes.
question.
I think
She
it's,
said yellow is native and it's good.
I don't
Blue
think
is
so.
bad.
You think it's the opposite?
it's the opposite.
Well, if it is in fact the opposite, we're happy to work with staff
Okay.
to make that change.
Okay, great,
I mean,
okay.
That's an easy one to fix, I think. All right.
So that was
Moving in, we
it.
can throw it out.
And
Okay.
then the curtain drain.
You'll find out from
Yeah, we'll work with you.
Right.
We might even be able to get
All right.
something to him before he does the resolution for the next
All
one.
right, fine.
So the curtain drain that's on the northern part of the property and it's remaining, but it's being, the discharge pipe is being rerouted.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of that curtain drain? Is there runoff from
Honestly,
the
it was,
northern property?
You may have noticed that we're generally getting more rainfall. And so the trees on site were, they were starting to lose trees. And so they took some action to kind of, dry out the uplands a little bit more so that they could protect the property.
Okay, but is it from water that's coming from?
Yeah, generally kind of anything that might be coming in this direction.
That from that direction,
Yeah.
okay. So runoff from there. Under the Coltex system that is to the west of the house, that's the one, the infiltration system.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think that we see this that often. There's a 4-inch under drain. What is the purpose of?
Is there one on that one? No, it's the one on the one on the other side.
Oh, it's on the one on the east side of the
Yes,
house?
that's correct.
Okay, all
And
right.
that's because soil conditions aren't as good there, so we want to make sure that system is emptying, but since that's not going into the ground,
Right.
and it routes back
To the other
ground,
one.
that's why we can get away with it there. It's just
Okay.
helping knock down the peak flows.
Okay, and there was an explanation about the overflow pipe in the crawl space. Could you explain how the overflow pipe
Oh,
in the
yeah.
crawl allows the groundwater to discharge via gravity? I just didn't understand
Bless
that.
you, Carolyn, for reading this stuff so closely. You are an awesome volunteer for the town. I'm an engineer. I like belts, I like suspenders, I like backup power, I like a plan. So if there was ever a problem with the sump pump, right, we put that gravity overflow in. So if water did start coming up, it's got a way to get out. So that's what that overflow is.
But given that it's below the below ground grade, how does, I don't understand how that works. I guess I don't really need to, as long as you know
it's
it does.
it's basically a normal footing drain set above where the pump is,
Okay.
right? So it's got a normal gravity footing drain that will go out to here, so that if the pump fails and water starts rising, it's going to hit that gravity drain and get out.
Got it. Okay, thank you for that explanation. The system that is to the west of the house, that is, will that fill be from the excavated house, or will it be imported fill?
It depends.
I think that in one of the notes
Yeah.
it said it's going to be tested, and if it's
Yes.
appropriate, what would you be
Yes,
looking
that's-
forward to?
That's the answer, is it depends. Sometimes
Okay.
you pull soil out, it's a little too silty, especially when you disturb it and you recompact it, it gets too hard.
Right.
And it doesn't have the right permeability anymore, and the whole point of this area is the permeability.
Right.
So we can probably reuse, we can go downhill of the septic and downhill of the storm and kind of build up some of that slope with reused material. But like right underneath it, we're probably going to try to use, better.
Something that's
better
more
import.
absorbent?
Yes, exactly.
And
And
then-
when before that infiltration system goes in, we repeat the percolation tests in the prepared subgrade.
So that was going to be my next question. Just the construction, in the construction notes, it seemed that you're going to be creating that hill first,
Yep.
correct? And then you're going to be doing the excavation for the detention system?
It's kind of goes along as it goes, right? You need to get to the subgrade.
Right.
So the bottom of the system. So we have to do the work necessary to get to the bottom of the system. And yeah, most contractors like to have like a little bit of a hole to dig in and a side to use, because if they're then covering the Caltex with the crushed stone, there's a side supporting
Correct,
the pouring of
right.
that crushed stone.
Yeah, no, that I was going to ask, given that you're, in your notes, it's general notes, it specifies that there's 12 inches on either side of the exterior of the Caltex, and then in your schematic it shows that as well. How would you achieve
With
that
AutoCAD, are you
without?
good with AutoCAD?
Pardon?
Are you good with AutoCAD?
Me, no. How would you achieve that without having the walls?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you
Build it up as you go.
build it up. Okay. Okay. I think that's all I have.
All right. I think it's an excellent application, and I think it's really well thought out. I love the design by the taking away the grass and putting in the meadow concept, the grass path through it. I think it's a great improvement, and I thank the applicant and his hired guns who obviously thought that through. That was fine. Just one thing. Do you think the sump pump's going to be going 24/7?
No.
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 All right.
No, because they'll get their money back for your engineering if there's something.
No, it'll be, it's, again, I think.
That's on the record, by the way.
I don't say that flippantly.
You have a lawyer here, so.
We did the test bit. We actually monitored groundwater for that system through a spring. In the spring, in a normal spring or a wet spring, it's wet out there. So yes, in those conditions, it's going to be running very frequently. During all year, no.
All right, because every other application that comes through her, and you probably know this, Greg, because when there's a basement, where there's sump pumps and things like this, I dig in my heels but
You have a.
but
again,
I think you've answered any objection I have here with that, and so
I think the specifics of the site here are a little bit different than other areas where you might get more concerned. And just know that the new drainage manual has a big disincentive. So you should be happy.
You are.
You're welcome.
So, all right, for the record, AI says that yellow is the invasive and blue is not. Okay, for the iris, so whatever it is,
Dump it.
so it is what it is. You guys will figure it out.
So relocate it to
All right.
the
For the trash.
trash.
This is what happens when engineers work as landscape architects.
This is straight from our landscape architect.
I'll
We're
take-
gonna-
I'll take
We'll have an AI educator.
So, anyway, I support the application. Without anybody else, you want to write this up? You want to write up the resolution so we can get that in?
That'd be
And,
great.
Done.
Thank you. We have a P&Z hearing on the 28th, and we'd love for Rick to be able to say, you guys are acting in favor so that we
Yeah.
can
there's
make that
any
happen.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Plan.
Close the public.
Oh, yeah. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes, I make a motion to close the public hearing for 769 Holly Ridge Road.
Second motion to close the public hearing.
In favor? Done. Okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn the regular EPC meeting of October 8th, 2025.
Second motion to adjourn the regular meeting and the special meeting October 8th,
Oh, right.
2025.
Okay. All in favor? Done.
Hearing, right.
Good night, Channel 79.